I would be remiss if I didn't mention an extraordinary coincidence, which I learned about 5 minutes before we started filming. I mentioned this is one of my favorite books. It's probably, I think, my favorite of C.S. Lewis's books, just judged on the book itself. But the C.S. Lewis book most dear to me, and the most important for my particular life, is Mere Christianity. And it's because I was a college student. I was practically an atheist. I might have actually been an atheist at the time. This would have been 2008, 2009, somewhere around there. And I was walking by the Commons, now called the Schwartzman Center, big prominent building at Yale. And there was a guy with a table of books, giving them away. And I didn't believe in God, or I wasn't Christian certainly, but I was and remain a frugal cheapskate. So I like free books. And I saw he had a few books there, and one of them was C.S. Lewis's Mere Christianity. And I just took it, said thanks, nice guy. Didn't read it right away, took it home for the summer, sat out in my little yard in my home, like true white trash. I was sitting there with a lawn chair, like a beach chair, and a cigar, and I'm reading C.S. Lewis. And I got to the end of C.S. Lewis's Mere Christianity, and I said, by God, he's right. Wow. And it was one of the pivotal moments in my life. Top 5, certainly, in maybe top 3 in my reversion. And I said, oh, you were at Berkeley and you were at Princeton, you were at Yale, right? And you mentioned that you were at Yale. We overlapped for 2 years. And you said, yeah, as a matter of fact, that building, Michael, the Commons? Yeah, a friend and I we'd stand out there and we'd hand out books.
Yep. I was at Yale. I was at the book table. I don't know if you were one of the people that I saw there, but we were handing out C.S. Lewis books and Tim Keller's Reason for God. And now, why was I there? This is the other part of the story. I was at the table because when I was an undergraduate at Princeton, there was a Campus Crusade for Christ, a crude book table in front of my dining hall, and I was also a cheapskate, and I was not a Christian, and they were handing out Mere Christianity, Screwtape Letters, and the Bible. And I said, no Bible, thanks, but I can buy these books for free because I recognized his name from Chronicles of Narnia. I picked them up, and that was one of the top 3 moments in my life when I became a Christian. And then when I went to Yale as a postdoc years later, I got involved with that book table, and I told the other students that were with me handing out books, I said, this is how I became a Christian, so you never know what one of these books will do, what God will use it to do.
I don't think it was you that gave me the book.
Okay.
You mentioned a friend of yours.
Yeah.
And I Googled him, and I'm almost positive it was that guy. I've thought about that guy for 10 years now, because I thought, this guy doesn't realize that standing at this table with these books radically changed my life. Mm-hmm. The fact that you had, look, that coincidence alone is crazy, that you were at Yale and you were involved. The fact that then you had virtually the exact same experience. Right. We are only sitting here right now because of, a modern person would say a chance encounter, probably a Christian would say a providential encounter. That led us to be discussing that specific author in question, C.S. Lewis. And it's a point I make because, I certainly care about the souls of our viewers on this show, but also just a point on books. The whole point of this show is we live in a culture where people don't pay attention to important things, and we don't avail ourselves of the great cultural patrimony, and the purpose of which is not just to delight us for a brief period, but to make us really understand objective reality and to come to know ourselves and come to live as we ought to live and live in accord with nature and the God who created nature. Just one little book can change a life radically, or 2 lives for 2 people who end up more than a decade later sitting down talking about the very same author.